positive and negative cash flows, okay? And so typically your negative cash flow comes from that initial investment in the first time period. Now sometimes your business isn't really kicking off there in the first couple of time periods. You might still be losing money, but nonetheless, you do have to have both positive and negative for IRR to even work, okay? So if you look at this IRR, is it gonna be a number higher or lower than 15%? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be lower. We kind of already established that it's going to be a number lower because you didn't meet the 15%. And I'm going to copy that over here. And this one is obviously, it's a positive number, something higher than 15%. You exceeded that. Because what IRR is the rate at which NPV would be 0, okay? IRR is the rate at which NPV would be exactly 0. Well, that's why we have a positive NPV here. And you can test that out. You can go up here and put a 10.107%. Didn't I put a point in there?
I put a comma.
I didn't mean to do that. Okay. And there's a lot more decimal places to this, but you see it's essentially getting it down to 0. Okay. So that's the internal. So again, does it have a return? Yeah, it had a return. It just didn't meet your expectations of a 15% return. And yeah, we can still. Okay, so those are two different measures that both take into account the time value of money, and on both of them, we would be leaning towards machine 2. Okay, higher NPV, higher IRR, I'm already sold on machine 2. But I am going to check one more thing, and that's the payback. And the payback does not take into account the time value of money. It simply says, at what point in time have I recouped my initial investment, okay? And what you have to do is time period by time period say, well, where was I at the end of time period 0? Well, at the end of time period 0, all I've done is what? Purchase machines. That's all I've done. So I am $6,300 in the hole, essentially, at the end of time period 0. I mean, that's where I am. I have spent $6,300. I have not started making any more money. I've just spent $6,300. During time period 1, I make money, right? So at the end of time period 1, remember I started out $6,300 in the hole. I added to that what I made during time period 1. And so I'm going to work my way out. I'm going to recoup that $6,300. At some point, I'm going to recoup that $6,300. I'm not sure where. On this second cell, I can copy it the rest of the way down. And I keep getting 1,030, 1,030, 1,000, working my way out of this hole, okay, until finally right there, and I don't care the exact moment when it happens, in which time period did I finally recoup my initial investment? Sometime during time period 7. Okay. Well, as it turns out, these are all based on this column. So when I shift it, it'll all be there. I don't have to put any absolute references in, and I can just copy this over for machine 2. Where I started out $3,300, made $1,360, made $1,360, made $1,360. I actually recouped that initial $3,300 way back in time period 3. All right, we're not going to do any fancy match functions because they're very, very complicated when you shift from negative to positive values. Some of them don't even work right at all. So all we're going to do is look at it and say, when did I recoup my initial investment? The 7th time period. When did I recoup it here? The 3rd time period. I mean, we're going to be kind of, unfortunately on this one, we're going to be low tech, okay? There are reasons. It's way too complicated to come up with a match to do this. Actually, some of it doesn't even work. So on that, we still now would choose machine 2. So you can contrive problems in such a way that sometimes the one performance measure might tell you to choose one project and another performance measure might tell you to choose a different project. But in this particular case, and when I say project, in this case machines, everything's pointing at machine 2. Better NPV, better IRR, faster payback, because that's what you want, so faster payback. And so everything's pointing at machine 2 right now.
How did we get the payback 73? How did you do that?
Just simply looking at the time period in which we finally went positive. So we eventually recouped that $6,300 was in time period 7. This one was way back up here in time period 3. Yeah. And we just plugged the numbers in. Okay, now, one of the things we do after we build a model is say, but what if? There's all kinds of what ifs in this one. What if the machines last longer or shorter, or the maintenance is higher or lower? We're going to visit some of that clear at the end of the semester when we're doing simulation, but there is one what if we're going to look at, not today, first thing on Thursday, and that's what if the demand is different than what we think? Because, that one really is such a, the machine people can tell you the estimated maintenance and the estimated life expectancy. Demand is so uncertain sometimes, just depending, especially if it's a new product or whatever. So we are going to do a what if analysis table looking at what if the demand shifts. Would we still choose machine 2? Okay. And then we'll talk about that. And I know that's going to be in the finished file when you see it today. No big deal. We'll all still do the table together at the beginning of class Thursday and talk about it. And then we'll move into the next material. But we are in, if you want to look at your textbook at home, you have to bring it with you, but we are in chapter 2, and we are working through just that model building process. So we'll pick back up on it on Thursday.